If you step into the Great Smoky Mountains today, every park ranger you meet carries a powerful tactical flashlight. And every ranger working night patrol knows one rule that is never questioned. They carry filters for green light, blue light, standard white beams. But one color is missing: red. Red light is strictly forbidden after sunset. Official manuals say the rule exists to protect hikers' night vision. But veterans who spent decades patrolling the Smokies know that explanation was written to keep tourists calm, because in the winter of 1994, a rookie search team ignored that rule. A lost hiker, heavy fog, temperature dropping fast, visibility close to zero, and in desperation, they fired a red distress flare into the sky. What Park Service radios recorded over the next 4 minutes was never meant to leave internal archives. It wasn't a cry for help, it wasn't panic, it was confusion, because something appeared in the fog, something that, until that night, rangers believed could only be detected through infrared cameras. And whatever it was, it didn't just react to red light. It moved toward it like it had been invited. Tonight, we're opening the incident files the Park Service tried to erase. You're going to understand why, in the Smokies, red is not the color of emergency. It's the color of a target. And if you ever walk a trail at night and see a crimson glow between the trees, kill your lights and stop moving. Because if you can see the red, it can see you too. Before we go deeper into the 1994 incident, there's something most visitors don't know about the Smoky Mountains. Search and rescue operations here are different from almost anywhere else in the United States. The terrain is unpredictable. Magnetic interference is common. Dense fog can appear in minutes, even when forecasts predict clear skies. But the strange part isn't how people get lost. It's how often trained rescuers do. And if you enjoy real case investigations like this, hit like and subscribe now, because most of these stories are buried in reports most people never read, and this channel exists to bring those files back into the light. Now let's go back to January 1994. The missing hiker was reported overdue just after 6 p.m. His vehicle was found in a remote parking area near Klingman's Dome. Engine cold, no signs of struggle, just an abandoned backpack in the passenger seat, still zipped, still untouched. Search teams were deployed immediately, but conditions deteriorated faster than expected. Temperature dropped below freezing. Fog rolled in. Radio signals began cutting in and out. At 8:17 p.m., Team Bravo reported losing visual contact with 2 members for nearly 3 minutes. When contact resumed, both men claimed they never left the group, despite being recorded missing. Then, something even stranger happened. Thermal drones scanning the ridge picked up a heat signature. But it wasn't moving, and it wasn't shaped like a person. Rescue Command assumed it was wildlife, a bear maybe, until the shape stood upright, and then vanished. At that point, search teams decided to use a visual marker, a flare, standard rescue procedure. But protocol clearly stated no red lights after sunset. And that's when the rookie team leader made a decision that still follows him today. He fired the flare anyway. The red glow lit the fog above the trees, and seconds later, every radio on that mountain went silent. And when transmission returned, they weren't alone anymore. Radio contact returned in fragments, first heavy static, then overlapping voices, all trying to speak at once. Command couldn't understand what Team Bravo was saying. Some transmissions sounded panicked, others confused, and one ranger kept repeating the same phrase over and over: "Turn it off! Turn off the red!" The problem was, by then, the flare had already burned out. The red glow was gone. But whatever had reacted to it didn't leave with the light. According to internal transcripts released years later through a partial information request, multiple rangers reported seeing movement just outside the perimeter of their lamps. Not an animal crossing the trail, not footsteps, more like shapes slipping between trees, always just beyond the beam. One ranger later described it as watching shadows move independently from the forest. Then came the moment that changed night patrol procedures in the Smokies forever. One of the separated members of Team Bravo began screaming over the radio, not shouting commands, not calling for help, just screaming. The kind of scream that makes trained responders freeze because they know something is deeply wrong. His partner tried to reach him, but got no response, and when the search group found him 20 minutes later, he was standing in place, flashlight still on, staring into the fog. He wasn't injured, no scratches, no signs of struggle, but he couldn't explain what happened. His radio had recorded nothing unusual, yet the rest of the team heard his distress call clearly. When questioned later, he only remembered seeing red reflections moving between trees, even after the flare was gone, like distant embers floating through the mist, and each time he tried to focus on one, it disappeared. The search operation was suspended shortly after midnight due to safety concerns. The missing hiker was never found. No remains, no gear, no clothing, nothing. And internally, the Park Service marked the case as exposure-related disappearance. Another tragic incident blamed on terrain and weather. Case closed, publicly at least. Privately, changes started happening almost immediately. Patrol guidelines were revised, equipment lists were altered, emergency training protocols quietly updated, and one specific instruction appeared in new manuals distributed months later. Red light sources are not to be used during nighttime operations within designated high-risk zones. No explanation attached, just the rule. Veteran rangers began sharing stories among themselves. Stories that never reached official logs. Patrols reporting distant red glows with no source. Campers claiming someone was signaling them from deep in the forest, only for rangers to find no one there. Search teams following what looked like flare reflections, only to realize they were walking deeper into restricted terrain. One retired ranger, interviewed years later, put it bluntly. He said, "I don't know what it is and I don't pretend to, but I know this: the forest reacts to certain things, sounds, light, movement, and red light gets a reaction you don't want. Scientists, of course, have their own theories. Some suggest unusual atmospheric refraction, where certain wavelengths behave unpredictably in dense fog conditions. Others propose unknown wildlife responses or rare visual illusions triggered by exhaustion and low visibility. Skeptics argue that stress, hypothermia, and fear explain everything reported that night. And maybe they're right. Maybe every strange detail has a rational explanation waiting to be uncovered. But here's the part that still unsettles experienced patrol officers. Even after new rules were implemented, incidents involving unexplained light sightings didn't completely stop. They just became less frequent, and almost every report shared one detail. Someone, somewhere, accidentally introduced red light into the environment before things went wrong. A damaged flashlight lens, a broken filter, a distress beacon malfunction, small mistakes, same outcome. Fast forward to today, and if you hike the Smokies after dark, you'll probably never notice any of this. Rangers are calm. Patrols look routine. Visitors enjoy campsites without incident. But behind that calm presence exists a quiet understanding among those who work there. There are rules written in manuals, and there are rules learned through experience. One former search coordinator described it this way: "People think danger in national parks is cliffs, weather, wildlife. And yes, those things are real. But sometimes the danger is not understanding why certain rules exist. Because those rules were written after someone learned the hard way. And maybe that's the real lesson behind the 1994 incident. Not monsters, not conspiracy, but respect for environments we don't fully understand. Wilderness doesn't operate on human logic. And when something consistently produces a negative outcome, professionals stop asking why and start avoiding the trigger." The rookie ranger who fired the flare eventually transferred out of mountain patrol work. According to colleagues, He never fully recovered from that night. He insisted, even years later, that he saw movement circling them after the flare went up. Not attacking, just watching, waiting. One chilling detail often overlooked in summaries of the incident is the final radio transmission recorded before silence fell across the search channel. It wasn't a scream or a warning. It was a calm voice, almost confused, saying, "Why are there lights in the trees?" Investigators later confirmed there were no other teams in that area at the time. No campsites, no known hikers, nothing that should have produced visible lights. And maybe that's why the rule still stands. So, if you ever find yourself hiking late in the Smoky Mountains and notice rangers checking gear carefully before heading out at night, now you know part of the reason. Some precautions aren't about fear. They're about patterns learned through experience. And if one night you're deep on a quiet trail and see a distant red glow flickering between the trees, you'll probably assume it's another hiker signaling for help. Maybe it is. But the safest move, according to people who've spent their lives in those mountains, is simple. Don't signal back, don't investigate. Turn off your light, stay still, let whatever it is pass without noticing you. Because, whether the explanation is natural, psychological, or something we haven't fully understood yet, one thing is clear. Rangers didn't ban red light because of superstition. They banned it because something kept going wrong when it appeared. And in places as old and vast as the Smokies, experience often matters more than explanation. If you enjoyed this investigation and want more deep dives into ranger files, unexplained search cases, and hidden stories from national parks and remote wilderness areas, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit like on this video. It helps more people discover these stories and keeps this series going. And tell me in the comments, have you ever experienced something in the wilderness that you still can't explain? Your story might end up featured in a future episode. Stay safe out there. And remember, some warnings exist for reasons we're still trying to understand.